The world laughed at him. They laughed at his silence, laughed at his awkward walk, laughed at his strange expressions. To the world, he was just a clown. But what the world never understood was that silence is not emptiness. Sometimes silence is discipline. Sometimes silence is reflection. And sometimes silence is the doorway to faith. Behind the comedy, behind the character known as Mr. Bean, was a man who watched the world quietly and searched for meaning where others never looked. While cameras captured laughter, his heart searched for truth. And that truth led him to something the world never expected. Mr. Bean was never loud. Even on stage, when millions watched him, he barely spoke. Yet people laughed harder at his silence than others who screamed for attention. But silence was not a joke to him. Silence was where he listened. He watched how people lived, how they reacted when no one clapped, how they behaved when the world was not watching, and slowly he noticed something different. Muslims. Not on television debates, not in political arguments, but in real life. He watched men pause their work and stand shoulder to shoulder in prayer. No fame, no cameras, no applause, just discipline. 5 times a day, no matter who they were, rich or poor, famous or forgotten, their heads touched the ground equally. That quiet humility stayed with him. He noticed Muslim women walking with dignity, not defined by attention, but by purpose. He noticed fasting during long days, when hunger was hidden and sincerity was tested. He noticed charity given silently, without social media, without recognition, and something inside him stirred. Comedy had taught him timing. Islam showed him control. The world of entertainment rewarded noise. Islam rewarded intention. He learned that in Islam even silence is worship if the heart is clean. The Prophet of Islam taught that fewer words protect wisdom, that humility is strength, that character matters more than appearance. These ideas echoed deeply in a man who built a career without speaking much at all. The more he studied, the more he realized Islam was not a performance. It was discipline without an audience. Accountability without supervision, a relationship between the human soul and the Creator, without intermediaries, without theatrics. He learned that Islam didn't ask people to be perfect. It asked them to be honest, honest in prayer, honest in struggle, honest in intention. Even mistakes were not hidden. They were corrected through repentance, not public shame. To a man who lived behind a character, this mattered. Islam didn't judge him by laughter, it judged him by sincerity. He discovered that humor and humility were not opposites. That joy did not require arrogance. That silence did not mean weakness. In Islam, silence often meant wisdom. The world saw Mr. Bean trip and fall. Islam taught him that falling was human, but standing up with humility was strength. He learned that every action, even a smile, could be an act of worship if intention was pure. That success meant nothing without accountability to God. That fame faded, but character remained. The moment of recognition. In a courtroom filled with people, where judgment was usually about punishment, something unusual happened. Not a trial, not a sentence, but reflection. The man known for making people laugh stood quietly, not as a performer, but as a thinker. There were no jokes, no expressions, only calm. In that moment, it became clear this was not a man who avoided speech because he lacked intelligence. This was a man who understood that words lose value when spoken without purpose. Islam had not made him loud, it had made him still, still enough to listen, still enough to observe, still enough to reflect. The courtroom felt different. Not because of law, but because of meaning. Islam. The world loves noise. Islam teaches balance. The world celebrates attention. Islam celebrates intention. The world judges by appearance. Islam judges by the heart. Mr. Bean never preached, never debated, never shouted. He simply understood something many never do. That truth does not need a microphone. That faith does not need applause. That sometimes the quietest man in the room has already found what the loudest are still searching for. And maybe that is the real lesson. Not about comedy, not about fame, but about silence. Because when silence is guided by faith, it speaks louder than words. In a world that laughs at silence, some souls find God in it.